It's time for another episode of Let's Talk Business, featuring interviews with South Carolina business executives, community leaders, and government dignitaries. Let's Talk Business is a truly one-of-a-kind business-to-business talk show. And now, here's your host, longtime South Carolina business publisher, Rick Jenkins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode, the inaugural episode of Let's Talk Business. I'm your host, Rick Jenkins, and I am so glad you're here. Whether you are joining us by listening in on 94.5 The Answer in the Upstate, or maybe you are accessing one of our video podcasts on Spotify or Stitcher or iTunes, or maybe you're just checking out a video on our YouTube channel. Regardless of how you found your way here, I'm glad you did. Let's Talk Business is a one-of-a-kind B2B talk show in South Carolina. There's not another one like it, and I'm glad that we are able to fill a void that I think has existed for a long time. Every week on this show, I will talk to an executive as a guest feature, and I will also talk to 3 or 4 other executives about a variety of topics of interest to the business community in the Palmetto State. We got a really good show lined up for you today, and what I want to do is I want to run through the guests that we're going to have, and as soon as I do that, we will take a very brief break. We'll get back and we will get it all started. Joining us today, and these are in no particular order, Victoria Brannon. Victoria is a leadership coach. She founded and is the CEO of a company called Hugs and Hustle. What a great name for a company that is. And she works with women executives throughout the state. Victoria will be followed by Wright. She is the Vice President of Advancement at Greenville Tech Foundation. And Ann and I will talk about a number of things to do with that foundation, but maybe most importantly is the fact that they are celebrating their 50th anniversary this year, and that is big, big news. Travis Seward will also join us. Travis is the Chief of Staff at EVG Media. They are a Greenville-based marketing agency with more than 20 years of experience in global digital strategy. That's big stuff, and I look forward to hearing what Travis has to say. Doug Lineberry, he's a partner at Burr and Forman law firm, and he is a specialist in intellectual property law. And for someone who has just started their own venture, I have questions about property law, and I know some of you might as well, and he'll be here to discuss legal do's and don'ts when it comes to that subject. And last, but certainly not least, our featured guest today will be our Lieutenant Governor, Pamela Evitt. We're going to talk about a lot of things, and one of the things we're going to talk about is the tourism industry that is absolutely booming in this state, especially coming off of a few years of tough times, and we all know about that. And then we're also going to talk about a few other topics, including those nasty roads out there, and we'll ask the Lieutenant Governor what is on the horizon to maybe get some of our roads and bridges fixed. All right, folks, that's it. We're going to come back in 30 seconds to get it all started off, but first, here's a company you should know.
I bet you want a website that drums up business. You see, every business wants to have an effective online presence that helps their business grow.
At Drum Creative,
we guide you through our process that will drive results by clarifying your message with a beautiful design that's strategically optimized for search.
Visit our website at drumcreative.com
and let us help you drum up business by designing a website that speaks to your audience and delivers results.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Business, everyone. I'm your host, Rick Jenkins. And as I said just a little bit ago, it is great to have you guys here, whether you are joining us on 94.5 The Answer in the Upstate, or maybe you're checking out our podcast video, or you're just on YouTube. We appreciate you being here. Let's get started. I want all you marketers out there to listen up, because I got a really smart dude here with me today. His name is Travis Seward. Travis is the Chief of Staff at EVG Media. EVG is headquartered here in Greenville, but they are doing business globally. Travis, how you doing, bud?
I'm great, Rick. Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. It's good to have you here. EVG, you guys specialize in content solutions and content licensing. Now, I'm pretty sure I know what that is, but briefly, tell me what that's about.
So with our clients, we work with brands and individuals who want to tell their story, have a message. And we help them craft that message with creative storytelling through blogs and video and those kinds of things. And then licensing, we also work with publishers who are talking about our brands. And in the publishing world, we call it earned media. It's where you're recognized by some national publication or regional publication about all the good work you're doing. So you're winning awards and accolades. So we work with both sides, from people who want to do the traditional marketing and tell their story to the publishing world who is telling the stories.
I'm glad you brought up earned media, and then there's owned media,
Correct.
right? And owned media, I suppose, if I'm looking at it logically, is your website.
Right.
You own that, right?
Right.
I had never heard it referred to as owned and earned, but it makes perfect sense. So tell me a little bit about owned media.
So owned media is anything that you're doing to tell your story. Blog posts, websites, paid
A video,
social media
on a radio
posts,
show,
social media posts,
right.
all of those types of things. We help our clients with figuring out the best method to tell their story so that they reach the right audience.
Right. Marketing has changed so much in the last several years. A lot of the traditional methods of marketing are beginning to go by the wayside to some degree. And so we're getting so much more into content marketing. And that's why I thought that we had a void to fill with Let's Talk Business. But what are the other types of content that marketers out there need to be thinking about if they're going to stay cutting edge?
So as a marketer, it's not just about an advertisement and selling your story and your brand. It's about actually connecting with an audience. So when we think about content solutions, we think about the holistic approach where you have your story, you know what you want to tell, and you actually have a communication with the people who are buying your products or reading your information. You want to do business with people that you feel that are knowledgeable, people who are out there telling who you are connecting with. And so that when you go to do business, you want to do business with somebody who's a friend, somebody that you think is an authority. And so that's where our content solutions come in. We help you craft the best message for you and your audience.
Got it. And, you said the key there, a company like you help craft. Not all companies, of course, have a firm or a department big enough to where they can craft messages themselves. Is that a big part of what you all do, is crafting the content?
So we have a staff of about 700 contributors in the world. And so when you tell us what you need, we have somebody who's either a subject matter expert or a local expert if it needs to be localized for your community, and even in language. So the global side of our business, if you need it in French, Italian, German, from a native speaker, we do that for you, and it's done with authenticity.
Right. How about that? 700 people, contractors throughout the world. What does a typical client of yours look like?
So our clients are really diverse, either in subject matter, banks, lawyers, assisted living facilities, major hotel chains, as well as companies as large as Google who need a lot of data normalized into local languages really quickly and really professionally. We're one of the only companies that has done work like this for Google in the world.
Wow, how about that? You are somebody if you're doing work with Google, right? Okay, so let's end it off with this. How do you even begin to determine a solid strategy, right? You're going to sit down with people, and there are so many options for how they can produce content and push content out to their audience. Where do you start?
It's understanding who their audience is today and who the audience is that they want to reach. You want to keep the customers that you have happy, but you also want to expand your reach and find new customers to build your business. So when we sit down, we figure out your goals. And once we understand your goals, and understand your story and what makes your business special and what your services are, then together we craft a message, and then we figure out the best way to deploy that message, because we know there's a different audience on TikTok versus YouTube versus Facebook.
Right. Lots of back and forth, I would assume, as you begin to put those messages together and make sure they're exactly what your client wants.
Absolutely.
Lots of back and forth.
Absolutely. And the good thing is with our company, we really are an extension of your existing team. So instead of just being an agency doing what you wish, we come to the table, we become part of your team, we figure out the strategy together, and then there's confidence in both of us that we know that we're going to do the right thing, ease that whole production so that it's not always back and forth, but that we do come together and deliver a final product that's expected.
Travis, that is good stuff. I appreciate you joining us. Folks, that is Travis Seward. He is the Chief of Staff at EVG Media, headquartered right here in Greenville, but doing business around the world, even with some company called Google. Folks, we will be right back, but don't go anywhere. It's only going to be a 30-second break, and here is a company you should know.
PTG actually stands for Palmetto Technology Group. We're what's called a managed service provider. We exist to align technology to business value.
We help businesses work better by trying to be proactive. If they call us with a problem, we try to find out, okay, is that the only problem? Or is there a root cause? There may be something else going on that's causing this.
It takes a very special kind of person, I think, to bring the IT world into the business world and make sure those two are working well together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Let's Talk Business. I am your host, Rick Jenkins, and I'm glad that you are here, whether you are listening to us on 94.5 The Answer, checking out one of our video podcasts, or maybe just watching a video on our YouTube channel. Appreciate you being here. Our next guest is Doug Lineberry. Doug is a partner at Burr and Forman, and he is an expert in intellectual property law. And I tell you what, I just started a new venture, and it's good for me to hear what he's got to say today. We want to get a little legal do's and don'ts from our friend Doug. How you doing, pal?
I'm good, Rick. Thanks for having me on.
You are very welcome. I appreciate you being here. I'll tell you what, let's just start off with really simple. Define intellectual property for us.
Sure. Easiest way to define it are the intangibles. They're going to be your patents, your trademarks, your copyrights, your trade secrets. Four very different types, so you can't paint them all with the same brush.
Right.
It really is what makes your business worth money.
Right.
It's how you assist over competitors. It's how you gain a competitive edge. It's how you expand. Mm-hmm. And really, it's something that unfortunately is overlooked a lot by clients.
I see what you're saying. So if I'm looking up here, and I look, right here is the Let's Talk Business logo, I'm assuming that is a piece of my intellectual property.
Absolutely, it is. Trademark. And the reason that you want that, Rick, is it identifies you. People know, hey, this is Rick's show. I know what kind of quality podcasts he put out. I know the programs. I know the guests. And that identifies to them what they can expect from not only programs you've made in the past, but what you make in the future.
And what other types of things might you trademark other than a logo?
Absolutely. Lots of stuff. Sounds, smells.
Sounds?
Hey, the Harley Davidsons that you hear on the street, and now we have a $1,000 fine against downtown. Trademark sound. You and I cannot make a motorcycle that sounds like a Harley Davidson.
Really?
Yep.
And a smell?
Smell.
Like a perfume?
Absolutely. Well, the Verizon store. When you go in the Verizon store, they actually have a trademark on the scent.
No way.
I promise you. And it is their trademark. If you and I have a mobile phone electronics store, we cannot have that smell in it. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with it besides taking care of your logos and taking care of word marks. There are really some unique things out there.
How interesting is that? Common intellectual property mistakes. What are some of the most common? And how do you avoid them?
Absolutely. Learn what you have. That right there is the real kicker. You as a small business, Rick, you're starting out. You and I have had a discussion. We sort of set a roadmap for what you can expect. A lot of folks don't appreciate this. They don't appreciate that they have intellectual property from day zero of a business.
The value of intellectual property to a business, in some cases, we're talking, it's worth millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And
Sure.
You talk about the Googles of the world, but
Yep.
Talk a little bit about just your average Joe. Rick Jenkins, value to me. Tell me.
Absolutely. Rick, think about it. With your logo, and as the program continues, and as you've had a cadre of guests on, and everybody associates you with entrepreneurism, South Carolina, building a business, that value is going to grow. We call it goodwill. Right. And what happens, let's say here in 5 years, you're like, hey, I want to transcend from this program. I want somebody else to handle it. They're not going to buy Rick Jenkins. Rick's going to go somewhere else. What they're going to buy is that goodwill that you've established through consistent use of your trademark and through quality programming. They're going to buy what you created through your intellectual property.
So let's stick on that a little bit. Let's say that I do want to do something different and I branch off and I have someone else run this for me, and now all of a sudden I'm going and purchasing maybe another existing business. What are the types of things that now I have to consider?
Fantastic. You've got to make certain that they did their homework too, Rick. You want to look at it and say, hey, Have you protected your trademarks? If there are patents out there, have they been protected? Are assignments obtained? A lot of issues that folks just don't think about. But when you go to this new business, you've got to kick its tires, because you're not just buying that goodwill that's associated with the trademark, you're buying everything else. You're buying the trade secrets, you're buying their inventions, you're buying all their branding pieces. So you want to ask first, have they done a good job of protecting it? If not, how do we circle back and take care of that?
Right. I would assume that, the cost to protect, your content and your scent or whatever it is, it's going to vary, of course, depending on all the things. But I mean, is this a really expensive venture to protect a logo?
Awesome question. No, Rick, it's not. And really, it's one of the de minimis costs, that design patents and some of the others on the low end. Now, sure, if you invent a fusion reactor tonight and you come to me, that's going to cost some money.
Right.
But for taking care of your branding, your logos, your word marks, basic design patents, no, not a great cost to that. Is there a cost? Sure. Is it slow to get it? Absolutely. But tell folks that going in, and it really does a lot to it does a lot to really de-stress a situation. Know what's coming, know what to do with it, and be told those prices up front. And there's almost always a government fee, so add that to it as well.
Of course there is. Wouldn't be Uncle Sam without that. Burr and Forman, let's just end with this. You guys have, if I remember right, six offices in South Carolina, plus a whole lot outside of South Carolina. You do intellectual property law, and I know there are folks in your firm that do a lot of other things. What kind of things do you do?
That's great. Think of us as a big crescent. We stretch all the way, basically from the southeast, from Alabama, all the way up to Delaware. Litigation, any sort of enforcement mechanisms you want done, bankruptcy, trusts, estates, general corporate work, banking, FDA, you name it, we've got someone that can help you with it.
And you are you sit in the Greenville office.
I do.
And you all have a Charleston office and a Columbia office and a few others. Do you have, for example, in Columbia, is there an IP person in Columbia and Charleston, or are you kind of the dude for the state?
Great question. We actually have an IP person in Charleston. We don't in Columbia. We do in Charlotte. We don't have any in Atlanta, but we do have enough to where we can cover those areas. The great thing about IP is it's federal. So you don't necessarily have to be a South Carolina firm to use a South Carolina attorney, but you do want to use someone who speaks the speak. If your best friend's an insurance attorney, probably don't want them doing your IP.
Right. Understood. Doug, I appreciate you joining.
Thank you, Rick. It's been a pleasure.
It was really good talking business with Doug Lineberry. He is a partner at Burr and Forman, specializing in intellectual property law. Folks, we are going to take a really brief break, and when I say brief, I mean brief, only about 30 seconds, but here is a company you should know. When you come back, we'll have our next guest.
Thrive Business Operations offers fractional COO services, and we work with business experts to provide clients and companies a suite and team of expertise to support their business operations.
COO, Chief Operations Officer, normally comes alongside the visionary or creator, founder of the business who has a lot of vision, a lot of creativity, and help actually execute that vision. A big frustration with business owners is their vision getting actually executed. A Chief Operations Officer is meant to do that. We do it at a fraction of the time and a fraction of the cost to bring savings to the company and bring excellence and processes to move that execution faster.
Welcome back, everyone, to Let's Talk Business. I'm your host, Rick Jenkins. Appreciate you being here. Regardless if you are joining us on 94.5 The Answer, or maybe you are checking out a podcast, let's say on iTunes, or checking out a video on our YouTube channel, however you're accessing us, we appreciate it. I am back with our third guest, and it is Ann Wright. She is the Vice President of Advancement for Greenville Tech Foundation, and there is a whole lot of cool stuff going on at the foundation, including this is their 50th year anniversary. And Ann, we will get to that in a minute. But there is a lot of stuff happening on the Greenville Technical College campus right now. There's buildings being constructed and people moving around. Tell us what's going on.
Yes, so the college itself is 61 years old, and many of these buildings are pushing 40 or greater. Sure. So currently from Pleasantburg Drive, you can see a 4-story structure going up that is the Prisma Center for Health and Life Sciences. It's a 135,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility containing an interesting array of things, such as the Anatomage Lab, which is a digital cadaver, if you will, as well as medical imaging labs, both X-ray and ultrasound. Those will be live labs.
Yeah.
Virtually 90% of all Greenville Tech students are going to pass through this one building. But what that does, and it opens next fall, it sets off a domino effect. And so the next building will be right next to it, will be demolished. A smaller building will be constructed, focusing on business and cybersecurity. And then we move over to the engineering technology building on the corner of Ferris and Pleasantburg, and that will take on a major renovation and facelift.
All kinds of stuff going on at Greenville Tech, and it's all good. Let's talk about the foundation for a second. We mentioned 50 years, and again, we'll get to that in a minute. But last year, the foundation, put some numbers to this so the viewers and the listeners can understand. Last year, the foundation raised more than $700,000, and that was just for about 200 scholarships. You raise funds for a lot of other things. Tell us what.
That's true. In fact, last year was a banner year overall. Over 50% of our contributions come from businesses, of course, others, individuals, and foundations. But we will raise anywhere from $2 to $5 million in a year, and these can go for endowed scholarships, such as what you saw, which to fully endow a scholarship is $50,000. This also will go for special initiatives of the college, such as our African American Male Scholars Initiative. This program was designed to really lift up that particular demographic that was consistently performing at the lowest level on all college stats, including graduation rates.
So you guys are raising a lot of funds. How many employees do you have? How many folks are out there beating on doors, so to speak?
So there's basically 6 of us that are devoted to fundraising. One is a grant writer. I will say that probably one of the most popular programs that a lot of people don't think about with Greenville Technical College, over 57% of our students have expressed some sort of food or housing insecurity. So the college and the foundation works together to support students outside of the classroom.
Right.
So this can be the Caring Corner, which is a food pantry on campus that students can access for food and other needs such as diapers and hygiene products. And then we also have our student emergency needs, and those are sometimes just a very simple thing like a car repair, Rick, is going to keep a student from being able to get to class and completing their degree.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because I was checking on your website, and last year you all contributed about $175,000 in emergency funding, and that covered 378 needs requests. I'm assuming that the students know all about the foundation, and if they need a little assistance, where to go and who to talk to.
That's true. We work closely with the college. So again, the students would approach the contact that they have at the college, who then accesses the program. There's some guidelines they need to follow, of course, regardless of what it is, whether it's a scholarship or an emergency need. And then the college will let us know, and we reimburse the college. So that way, there's a paper trail. They have professionals on their end who actually administer the program, and we're there to provide the funding.
Right. That is great stuff. 85% of graduates stay in the upstate. So a minute ago you said that it costs $50,000 to endow a scholarship, right?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, you don't have to endow a scholarship to give to the foundation and support scholar activities. But 85% of graduates stay in the upstate, so donations really go to support the local workforce, right?
They absolutely do. And in fact, talking business, if you are in business in Greenville County, you really need to be talking to Greenville Tech. There are many things that you can take advantage of, including internships, apprenticeships, which can lead to employment with skilled and trained high-quality employees. Many companies have a Tech Scholar program where they pay the student 20 hours a week, and then they pay the student to go to school the other 20 hours, and they earn their degree. Very popular program. Businesses can also participate on advisory committees. The college has an advisory committee for virtually every career pathway.
Mm-hmm.
So businesses can be involved in what is being taught.
Great stuff. 50 years. The foundation has been in existence for 50 years. I'm assuming that you probably have some fun stuff planned for this year. Tell us about it.
We do. October 27th, we'll be over at Judson Mill. Tickets are still available. We'll be celebrating that 50-year history you might be interested in knowing. Formed in 1973, the area commission said that they would really want to have some support other than public support. So the foundation is able to raise funds from private support. And Bill Workman, the former mayor of Greenville, was the first person in my position at the foundation. And they started with $20,000 in the bank. And today we have a little under 200 endowed scholarships and about 20 million in investments. We have 11 staff. So it certainly has grown in those 50 years. McAllister Square was in that picture where the college and foundation purchased it, the old mall. And what's nice about that is it actually is providing revenue that offsets the foundation operating costs. And that allows 90% of donations to go directly to the student or the college.
And I appreciate you being here. Really good stuff.
Great stuff. Thanks so much, Rick.
You are welcome. Folks, that is Ann Wright. She is the Vice President of Advancement at Greenville Tech Foundation. We will have had some contact information on the screen so you can reach out to her if you'd like. And again, we're going to go away for a quick 30 seconds. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with another guest. And here is another company you should know. See you soon.
Hi, my name is Ed Hubbard with Adroit Systems Company. My wife Angie and I moved to this community 20 years ago. It has been great to be part of the growth of the South Carolina upstate. Our company specializes in access control systems, fire alarm systems, burglar alarm systems, and intercom systems. Let us know if we can be of service to your business. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone, to Let's Talk Business. I'm your host, Rick Jenkins. And we've got another guest coming up that you're really going to enjoy hearing from. But once again, I'm glad you're joining us today. Whether you are listening in on 94.5 The Answer, or you are catching one of our podcasts on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, or maybe you're just watching a video on YouTube. Appreciate you being here, and I hope you are enjoying it. Our next guest is Victoria Brannon. Victoria is the founder and CEO of a company called Hugs and Hustle. I love that. We're going to ask her all about it. Victoria, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It is good to see you. Good to meet you. Now, you have not been in the upstate for very long, not even in a year. Am I right?
Not yet. September will be a year.
Right. And you moved here from where? Florida?
Florida, so like where NASA is, Cocoa Beach area.
Space Coast kind of thing going on, right? And you moved here with your fiance.
Yes.
And you all are scheduled to get married here very, very soon.
Yes.
Correct? And so congratulations to you.
Thank you.
But let's talk business here. So, Hugs and Hustle.
Yes.
Great name. Tell me how it came about.
So I actually read somebody's shirt wrong. I thought it said Hugs and Hustle. It said Hogs and something. It was Harley Davidson.
Oh God,
so my
hilarious.
Little bit of dyslexia helped me create that name, but it's fitting with what I do now. So.
Right. And so tell us about what you do.
Yeah, so I do team leadership training for women-led teams. I focus mainly on women-led teams just after years of working with both and learning that I can relate a little bit more to that. But I work with women who are business owners or managers in corporate companies.
Right. And, you have always been an entrepreneurial spirit, right? I mean, you and I talked a couple weeks ago when we very first met, and we had a cup of coffee, and we just talked. Mm-hmm. And I found out that from an early age, we're talking teenager, you started your own business.
Yes, 18, right out of high school.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. And what was that business?
So it started off as entertainment and events, and then it shifted to marketing and events for client success and small business.
Right. And so you went, I can't believe you're doing this at 18.
Yeah. Me neither. I look back, I'm like, wow.
But you had to have a mentor, someone that led you along that way. Who was that?
My mom and my grandma. So my mom's always been an entrepreneur. She had a cleaning business. She does photography still. And then my grandma was always in sales. And so they always kind of had that fire in them to create their own schedule and not have a cap on the income that they're creating.
Right. When you're 18 years old, all right, I just got through, of course, starting my own business here. Let's talk business. Yay, right. And I had been running a business for a long time, but I hadn't run my own business. And so I have found out a lot of stuff that I had no idea that I did not know.
Yeah.
Right? So when you're 18 years old, are you talking to attorneys and are you getting logos, trademarked? I mean, doing all that stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot of Googling, a lot of being okay with asking questions and being a beginner, and just I went right into the Chamber of Commerce and found myself some people that have been in business for a while and kind of got under their wing, and just really was okay with failing fast and failing forward.
Let's get on to that again. Women executives, what types of things may they need help with that you're going to say, hey, let's fix this?
Yes, so we focus mainly on team dynamics and company culture. And what makes us different actually is we don't do DISC assessments or anything like that. We actually focus on foundational skill sets that will create a better workplace culture so that they can attract and retain the right type of people and also be able to step out of the day-to-day chaos. So people skills, communication skills, just really habitual skill sets that create change.
And you mentioned team. Mm-hmm. At first you weren't working with teams, right? You were working with individual executives, but at some point you said, hey, let's bring the team together.
Yes.
How's that going?
So I had to learn the hard way, but it really is all about just connecting and communicating to each other. So just learning after a couple of years of just doing one-on-one, realize that the communication also has to happen to their right hand or manager or COO, as well as their higher up team members.
What types of executives are we talking? Are we talking CEOs? Are we talking founders? Are we talking C-level execs? Are we talking vice presidents? I mean, what? All the above?
All of it. Yep, all the above. So I have a lot of my managers are VP of sales and marketing, things like that. And then business owners are the founders and working CEOs still.
Got it.
Yeah.
You know, that's really good stuff, Victoria. Do you have anything else you'd like to share? You want to shout out to someone or something? Tell me, I think you got something on your mind. What's that?
Well, I want to shout out my mama and my grandma always. They, I have the pleasure of still being able to talk to my grandma, so very thankful for that. And I'm also actually serving, we're taking our curriculum that we built and we're just creating an earlier entry point and being able to serve the women-owned business or manager with only a few independent contractors or employees. So instead of having to have staffed brick and mortar, we're able to take that same skill set and kind of chop it up.
Got it.
It starts in September.
Really good stuff. Start when?
September.
September.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you call your grandma?
Grandma or G-Money.
G-Money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
G-Money.
Yeah.
I like G-Money. Folks, that is Victoria Brannon. And G-Money, you should be proud. She's a very impressive executive, and I love the fact that she has been doing this kind of thing her entire life. And G-Money, I'm sure you probably assisted with that in some fashion way back when.
Very much so,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Folks, that is, again, Victoria Brannon, CEO and founder of Hugs and Hustle. We will be right back with our next guest, so don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick 30-second break. Here's another company you should know.
I bet you want a website that drums up business. You see, every business wants to have an effective online presence that helps their business grow.
At Drum Creative,
we guide you through our process that will drive results by clarifying your message with a beautiful design that's strategically optimized for search.
Visit our website at drumcreative.com
and let us help you drum up business by designing a website that speaks to your audience and delivers results.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Business. I'm your host, Rick Jenkins, and just as usual, I appreciate you guys joining us, whether it is on 94.5 The Answer or it is on a YouTube channel. Maybe you're catching one of our videos there, or you're catching our video podcast on Spotify or Stitcher or iTunes. However you're doing it, we appreciate you being here. Well, we have talked to 4 really great executives about a whole bunch of different things, and now we come to our featured guest, and it is Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evitt. Lieutenant Governor, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be sitting across from you again.
Yeah, and we have done this kind of thing a few times before. One of the reasons that I like when the Lieutenant Governor comes on here is not only is she our Lieutenant Governor, but as Pam, she was a business executive starting a business and running an incredibly successful business here in the upstate, Quality Business Solutions, QBS. And you did that for a long time. You and your husband started it on your kitchen table 2 decades ago, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe that it's been that long ago, but it has. We started it and, it's 23 years now.
Right. I'm impressed that even I remembered that. But anyway, so it is glad to have Pam here, and it is glad, I'm honored to have the Lieutenant Governor here. So what do you say we talk business?
I love that.
All right, let's start out with something really, really positive, and that is the tourism industry.
Whew.
My goodness, did we have a rough go of it for a while, right?
Well, during COVID, I mean, it was the first thing that halted, right? And it was kind of the last thing that people started re-embracing again. But
That's right.
then we took off.
Yeah. And I am so surprised. I was looking, looking at some numbers. Let me just give you a couple numbers here because it's really impressive. Last year, we were up 12% year over year. Now, when I saw that, I thought, well, you know what? We're still coming out of a COVID-impacted year for tourism. However, the economic impact of tourism in the Charleston area set a record last year. $13 billion in economic impact in Charleston. Never done that much before. What's going on?
Well, people have discovered
love
South Carolina.
That's right.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, it really started with COVID. I tell people COVID did a lot of really bad things, but there were some things that it really did good for our state. And one of them was tourism. Because as people and our neighbors to the north, as they were shutting down and not opening back up, we were we were the last state east of the Mississippi to tap on the brakes, first state to open up. People started coming to South Carolina. They were coming because their states were so locked down and they needed to get out. So they started by renting Airbnbs. I've heard this story a number of times. Like we came down, our kids were virtual, we were working virtual. We wanted to get out and move around, so we came down to sunny South Carolina and we rented a house, whether in Myrtle Beach or Hilton Head or Charleston, and we never left.
That's right.
They said, this is where we want to be. They went back up north, sold their house, and here they are.
Yeah.
And so that's how it started. You know, the word got out.
Yep.
And it just never let up.
We're not so much a hidden gem anymore, South Carolina, but in Greenville, especially in Greenville County, just a stat here, hotel occupancy rates are up statewide or 75% statewide. That's above the national average. But here in Greenville County, hotel revenue up last year, 32%. So, it's more than pent-up frustration from COVID. It is people wanting to come to South Carolina and people saying, yeah, that Greenville, right?
Yep, it's exactly right. And so I wanted to make sure I had the latest and greatest on statistics too. So lodging revenue came in at $6.6 billion for 2022, all-time high in state's history. And we have a lot of look at all the golf outings we have. Mm-hmm. We have the Heritage, we have Congaree. We just announced, Dwayne Parrish with PRT announced that we're going to have another PGA event at the Dunes Club in Myrtle Beach. It's an amazing golf course.
Yep.
Now there's 3.
All right, that is a good thing. Let's talk about something that we continue, that's kind of continued a thorn in our side. And I really want to get into this a little bit. And we're going to talk about roads, right?
Okay.
And so we're not having as positive a conversation with roads as we are about the tourism industry. But a couple things, and let me say a couple things here, and then I want your response. 2 years ago, a consumer affairs study ranked South Carolina roads as the worst in the United States, the very worst. So, my question to you, I guess, Lieutenant Governor, is, are we spending our funds just to maintain, and are we not able just to get ahead to be able to really fix something, and all we're doing is chasing our tails and maintaining?
No, that's the good news. We are a very fiscally conservative state, right? So our neighbors to the north in North Carolina, their DOT has gone bankrupt multiple times. Mm-hmm. And we have always spent within our means, which means that maybe you're not seeing it happening as quick as you could. So let me take you back. I first became lieutenant governor, and I was just a normal private citizen.
What year was that?
2019.
Okay. All right. So that was 2 years after the penny tax started, right?
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, and that's all anybody wanted to talk about.
Right.
Every place I went to, that's what I heard was roads. So I asked Christy Hall to come on into my office. She is our secretary of DOT, and I said, Christy, help me help you. Let me throw at you all the questions that I'm getting asked so that I can tell people real answers, not just something that I'm assuming. And she gave me great things to go back and talk to people about. First of all, when we got the penny tax, it was no secret the governor wasn't for it, and that his veto was over it. But what happened with that is he was able to control priority and make sure that nobody was messing with priority. If you go on the DOT website, you'll see where every penny is accounted for and every road that's about to be done.
That's right.
They have their RFPs that are out are right in line with the money coming in, so they're not holding on to money and not getting things done. They're not overshooting the mark.
Right.
It takes 2 paving cycles to get things done.
Yeah.
Unless you want to pay a premium, which means you'll get less roads done for the same amount of money. A big thing we have to worry about too is not just our roads, but our bridges.
Yeah.
The governor putting a lot of money that has come from the federal government towards our roads. And because of all that money, it is really pushing up roads projects. They're estimating 6 years, which is a very positive note. So we're taking a negative topic, we're putting a positive spin on it.
It is a positive spin. But let's go back. You just talked about getting money from the feds, right? 6 months ago, $1 billion from the State Department of Transportation to be used on infrastructure, to be used on bridges and roads, okay? And then, back to the gas tax. Now, tell me if I'm wrong here. 2017, the General Assembly passed legislation to increase by 12 cents the tax, which was going to be spread out over 6 years.
It was going to incrementally go up each year.
That's right, 2 cents each year. This being the 6th year, 2023. Now, what was supposed to happen with that is that those funds were going into an infrastructure maintenance trust fund.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going to equal $3 billion in road and bridge work. Okay, now for someone like me, hey, look, I know money doesn't go as far as it used to, right? But you got $3 billion there, you got $1 billion from the federal government. Okay, we got tons of problems we need to fix. But if I'm just the person listening to this right now on the radio station, I'm just still listening to what you're saying and saying, okay, fine, but my roads still have holes in them. How long is this going to take, right?
You're absolutely right. And now what I find is that sometimes the road you hate the most is not a state road. It's a county road. So they get very mad at the state for not fixing their road, but they can't.
That's a very good point.
And what most people don't realize is that if you look at the size of South Carolina, we are not a big state. If you drop us over Texas or Florida or a state like that, but we have more state-maintained roads than any other state in the country.
Did not know that.
And so now, where other states are taking this burden and they're giving it to their cities and their counties, we're taking it all on ourselves. We are making great strides. I think it's painful. It's painful for all of us. The governor and our executive budget this year asking for $850 million more dollars to go towards infrastructure, because it's not just our roads. We're very concerned about bridges. Bridges took a really, it was the topic of focus this year because, we have a lot of big trucks moving around. Mm. And when you have bridges that are on weight restriction, now we're rerouting these trucks, and that's not efficient, especially when gas prices are what they are. And so we really took a hard look, Christy Hall, really focusing on bridges that needed the most attention in our state. So you're seeing a lot of road work. That money is getting to the roads. Do we wish we could get it done faster? Yes. Only so many companies out there that do this work too.
I'm tempted to buy a dump truck and a bulldozer and jump in there. I'll tell you what, let's leave this topic with this last thing. Look into your crystal ball and tell the upstate folks, when the heck is that I-85 piece all the way up to Spartanburg going to look better and get fixed?
I know. I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you that. But I know that all these things that are in the pipeline are a huge priority.
Right.
They continue to be worked on. So I have faith that it's going to get done, and we're going to be happy with it, and we're doing it the right way. And I think you can do things quick. You can run. My dad used to say you can run fast and loose, right, and get things done quick and cut corners. But the one thing we're not doing at DOT is, if it makes anybody feel better, the dollars that they're putting into this are being watched. The Department of Transportation, Christy Hall runs a tight ship. She's making sure that all that asphalt is tested to make sure it's the quality we've paid for. The concrete, it's the thickness, whatever we're doing on that. And they are following up with people to make sure that they're not cutting corners. So your money is being watched, and I think that's a big thing.
All right, let's talk workforce.
Sure. Love workforce.
Yes, and it is, it's almost like roads. It's always a topic for us here in South Carolina. Always, always, always. Let's start with the unemployment rate now at 3.1%, or at least the last thing that I saw. Do you have anything that is better or worse than 3.1?
Nope, you are actually right. We are under the national average, which is good.
Right.
We were down at 2.7 pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Employers ask me all the time, where did all the workers go? What I'm happy to report is that we're not looking at just how many more people we have working. Last count, we have over 100,000 more people working in South Carolina than we did pre-COVID. We have 100,000 jobs looking for people.
We have, let me make sure here, 100,000 more people working today, even though the unemployment rate is a little higher, so you got population increases that are factoring into that calculation.
Yeah, absolutely.
100,000 more people working today than 2020 pre-March.
Yeah.
That's a good number.
It is. And so, it's not where did all the workers go? It's thank God for South Carolina. We're creating more jobs, right? And so we're bringing more people to work. We really are working on skilling up our workforce. And that's what we have to be focused on.
That's right.
You hear me talk a lot. I think we have the best technical colleges in the entire country. And we are doing things, we're being nimble, we're creating a workforce that our employers want. And I think that's so important. And that's why we continue to keep getting employers from around the globe coming to South Carolina, because they know we can do that. We've proven we can do that. Some of the last statistics I got, and this is a few years ago, so it could have changed, but when you talk about a workforce that has secondary education or that is dealing with certifications, we were only in the mid 40% range, like 44%. With the amount of industry that we have here, we should be up in the 68% range.
Right.
So we had a lot of work to do. The governor putting in place workforce scholarships, really pushing that through the General Assembly, and using money that he got from the federal government during COVID to really push that. So to give people a way that if you were stuck in basically an entry-level job, you had the resources. If you went into one of 5 genres that we knew we were lacking in, whether it be transportation, teaching, healthcare, welding, advanced manufacturing, we had this, basically categories. If you fit into that, you would get a workforce scholarship, go to any one of our technical colleges and get skilled up and get a job. So we continue to do that. Once again, the governor pushing for more money for those workforce scholarships, because we have to give people a path forward. But then we have to get our young people working again. So for all the parents that are listening to me, last year I did a huge statewide initiative. I'm going to be doing even more of that this year coming up, getting our high school kids working again, because that's key.
Talking about getting young people working again and talking about workforce issues, let's turn to the old tried and true topic of manufacturing and workforce. We know a thing or two about manufacturing in this state, do we not?
We dabble in it, right?
Yeah, we dabble in it. I'm going to give you some statistics here, and then let's discuss. Now, agriculture and tourism remain our biggest industries, just in terms of dollars. But we all know that manufacturing is kind of driving South Carolina now. Auto manufacturing, of course, aerospace, getting to a much larger degree, right? It seems like every quarter we hear good things coming out of that industry. We're known for cars and we're known for tires. We're the tire capital of the world.
Yep.
BMW exports more cars than any other auto manufacturer in terms of value of cars in the world. And South Carolina, also the highest producer in the country. So manufacturing continues to be big, but where do we go from here? What's on the horizon? We continue. There's other big announcements too coming, electric vehicle-wise, with manufacturing and autos. I'll get to that in a second, but tell me what's going on there.
I think we always want to make sure we're diversifying, right? Advanced manufacturing is, we already know we can turn out the workforce they need. We've done that with BMW and Lockheed Martin. I was with Lockheed Martin when we turned the first F-16 Block 70s over to the generals of Bahram. And I can remember 2 years ago when Lockheed Martin came down and we were all sitting at dinner and they said, Lieutenant Governor, what are we going to do about workforce? And I said, you're in the right spot, because we're going to work with our technical colleges. And fast forward that to this year when the first F-16s rolled off.
That's right.
They remember that conversation and they said they walked the line and saw 19 and 20 and 21-year-olds so proud of what they were making.
Let's check on manufacturing for a second and the technical college system. I think you're exactly right. I think Dr. Tim Hardy does a wonderful job at the tech college system as the president there. What strikes me is that there are so many jobs that are available for the taking, and all you need is something like a 2-year degree at Greenville Technical College, maybe a mechatronics certificate or whatever have you, and you can go over to Lockheed and you can start working on an airplane.
Yep.
Or you can go into BMW and you can start working. But I think our problem is it's, the parents. We have to reach the parents because there's a stereotype that continues to exist today amongst some that manufacturing is something other than what it really is today. And as I've said before, manufacturing today, this ain't your daddy's manufacturing. Right?
Don't I know it?
But it's, exactly. And it's parents that we got to talk to, right?
And that's why I use my platform and my microphone to talk about that all the time. You know, my dad was a tool and die maker. And so as I was building QBS, I had my head down. I didn't realize how far we had overcorrected, right? Because my dad and his job put 4 of us through college, put a roof over our heads, put food on the table. And then somehow it kind of tweaked a little too much. Now, I understand why, because my grandparents were all immigrants. And so when your grandparents from Poland all came here around 1910, and they're kind of the benchmark for them that they had made it and made the right decision was that your grandkids went to college, something that they probably wouldn't have been able to do in the country they left. And so I can see why it happened, but it was just such a sharp swing. And we have to talk about it. So for everybody listening, I'm going to tell you my personal story, which you've probably heard.
Yeah.
So my middle son, Joey, and my kids hate when I use their names, but it just comes with the territory.
That's right. Get used to it.
God-given, the smartest of my 3 kids, and they're all very bright, but just naturally gifted. Didn't have to pick up a book, could hear it, see it, knew it. Did not want to go to school. Did not want to go. He had ADD. So courses like psychology or sociology that are very you just have to think of this concept.
Yes.
Oh, it's like nails on a chalkboard to that kid.
Right.
And so I was okay with that. But long before I was lieutenant governor, sitting on the lacrosse field, telling friends of mine that Joey wasn't going to go to a 4-year college, he was going to go to Greenville Tech. They were like, did he not get into Clemson? Joey's so smart. You know what I mean? Right. That was the number one comeback. And it was like, no, he doesn't want to go.
Right.
And so my mission, one of my missions, has really been to educate people that our technical schools are not a second-tier option anymore.
I'll tell you what, we got a few minutes left, and I want to get to electric vehicles. So let's talk about that just for a minute as we end off the show. And again, I'm going to provide a little bit of statistics for this. The last count I saw showed South Carolina had fewer than 4,500 electric vehicles on the road. I mean, that is a fraction of a percent. It ranks us 28th in the state in terms of the number of or percent of vehicles that are on the road. We have fewer than 400 charging stations. We don't offer tax credits or rebates or other incentives to help EV buyers. Now, we got a lot of great stuff going on with electric vehicles. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But before we get into what BMW is doing or what you all are doing, that new website you got, my question is, are South Carolinians, are they even going to buy the things?
I think they will. I think the market will drive that. But we live in South Carolina. We're not going to push anything down anybody's throat, right? But what we want to make sure is if that's where our country is going and that's where the world is going, then we want to be leading the charge on it, right? But we're never going to tell somebody that if they like their gas-powered car better, that we're going to take it away from them. Because we can see that doesn't work well in other states. But I'm just glad that we're leading the way in the manufacturing of it. But more so because, I'm very passionate about our environment. I want to make sure that we're doing the right things to take care and to recycle. And so we're going to, we're not just working on building electric vehicles. With the announcement of Redwood last year, the single largest economic development announcement. I mean, we broke our own record twice. We broke it in October when the governor and I were here with BMW, $1.7 billion investment over in Woodruff, South Carolina. And then 30 days later, Redwood comes in at $3.5 billion, talking about what they're going to do with electric recycling. And I think that's very important, is that we're getting ahead of the challenges, and we're doing it right here in South Carolina.
With those 2 announcements, you just spoiled what I was going to talk about next. I was going to sound smart and talk about those, but you did it. But that's where we are. So do you think we're going to be successful in this electric vehicle venture from a user perspective?
I think it's going to take time. I think people really have to embrace it. I know here in our state, I think every state has its challenges. You don't want to be stuck at the coast and trying to head away from Charleston in a hurricane evacuation and worry about your car not having a charge.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So I think it's going to depend where you are, but I think it's all going to come along as electric vehicles. You can see already just how far they've come from where they were. We're going to continue to work on that, but South Carolina is going to be the heart of that. Solving problems, making sure we're giving people what they want out of them, but then always, always giving them the option to choose what suits best for them and their family and what they feel most comfortable in.
Good stuff. Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great conversation.
Always
I
great.
appreciate it. Yeah, it's always good to talk to you. Folks, that is South Carolina Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evitt, and that wraps up our inaugural episode of Let's Talk Business. Again, I'm your host, Rick Jenkins, and we will see you the next time.